Bigfoot, I don't care about you. Bigfoot, I hardly think about you. You usually are the last thing on my mind. Till some stupid late night TV show comes on and just makes me laugh.
Good evening. Hey.
Hey.
Look what we've got here. Look what we've got. My wife. No, we have Ken Walker.
Hey, Ken Walker.
Three-time world champion taxidermist. And he is the first person to literally make a, would you say that was patterned after Patty or your own imagination?
It was definitely, it was made from the Patterson film. I made whatever was in that film. There's been people made Sasquatch reproductions before. Probably, I was probably just the way I approached it, with just the Patterson footage, and extrapolating everything I saw in there. It's like I tell people, I wasn't trying to build a Sasquatch as per se. I was building whatever is in that film.
I also would like to thank my brother Leon, Sasquatch Okanagan. He is our guest host tonight. And I'd like to say hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you for showing up. My Eyes, the Howler. Who the heck is the Howler? I know who the Howler is because I just talked to him a little while ago. We got some great people tonight. And Joe, thank you for showing up. Patty. So we're going to move right along here. And I want to start with Leon going in and ask Ken anything you want.
Wait, whoa, slow that horse down. Oh my God.
Nikki.
First thing I want to point out is you notice it says Sasquatch Okanagan.
Yep.
Well, I thought I said that.
Yeah, I know, but it's usually Bigfoot Okanagan.
Oh, is it?
Wow.
Yes. And the reason why I put Sasquatch Okanagan is because I've been online with Thomas and Jerry and those guys, and they've been razzing me for 5 years about make it Sasquatch Okanagan. So I changed the name and tried to fool them on the last show. Oh. And then I had to fess up and say, no, it's just on this show. And I thought,
Leon, you're saying you hung out with Tom and Jerry?
Yeah, Tom and Jerry. Oh, and Bill. Bill's the dog. You guys haven't met him yet. He's like the pit bull or the bulldog. But
I've been skinning coyotes, so I'm just itchy and scratchy.
Stimpy. Yeah, I'm glad you're on, Ken. I hope everyone in the chat really thinks of interesting conversations and highlights them, because I mean I've been watching it for the last year, I think, when you started coming online, at least on the Bigfoot channels. And we're from the same province, and I just moved out the Okanagan 10 years or 12 years ago, so, and I'm roughly around the area. Well, you're up a little norther for me, but so I just have questions for you as time moves forward, and that's all I want to say for right now. Jay, you this is your thing. Once you get rolling, I get to hear him talk. I'll be writing notes.
You got it.
Asking questions.
So, Ken, you've been you just came back recently from Europe, right?
Yeah, I was in Hungary and Romania.
Wow.
I took 2 trips to Hungary. I work in a workshop there. And I did a piece for the European Taxidermy Championships, the competition there. I haven't competed for a while, but I really wanted to compete in that show. And so I went and collected a couple of roe deer on a real fun hunt in Hungary out by Pajto. And then I put the piece together, and then I came back for when the show was in September. And then my son actually flew out, and we went hunting stags in Romania and the Transylvania in the Carpathian Mountains. We even got to go to Dracula's castle and everything. It was
so cool.
I mean, I'm really glad because, as of now, I'm not allowed to fly in Canada. I'm not allowed on any public transportation. But and then I got hospitalized in November with COVID, COVID pneumonia. But as soon as they treated me, I just bounced back and everything's fine now. I'm completely recovered. So, but yeah, so it's been kind of an interesting year. But yeah, no, we were in Europe. It was I really like it over there. I used to live in Norway. I lived in Norway for about 5 years. Before I was still a young single guy, I used to kind of gallivant around the world. I still kind of do what I used to, and when I was allowed to fly. But so now I'm just waiting till somebody lets me fly again.
Is that because you had COVID?
No, it's because of the laws in Canada. If you're not vaccinated, you're not allowed to sit on the bus or the airplane or the train. You can't even go on the back of the bus, you see. But I can't be vaccinated. They told me in no uncertain terms after after I recovered from COVID not to get any kind of a vaccine or booster for at least 6 months because it can destroy your circulatory system, is what they told me at the hospital. So, but I've in my family, we don't get cancer, we don't get heart problems, but we do get blood clots, which is why I never took the vaccine in the first place, is because if you're prone to blood clots, it's not good for you. And I just, and I'm healthy. I don't have any health problems that could be compounded by COVID. I figure if I get COVID, no matter how bad it is, I could probably beat it, which is what happened. But now I'm in a situation where I couldn't get vaccinated if I wanted to, and I can't go anywhere. But it's actually good because I got so much work to do at home. It's about time I stuck around.
How much do you have though, Ken, on your plate as far as do you do things special for like friends or hunters, or do you do your own thing? What's on your plate really? Let us know.
Well, I have a business called Walker's Wilderness Studio, and I've ran it for 20 some years. And I'll be honest, I was getting kind of burned out. I got too much work to do and I had to stop taking work. And everything was like the inflation was killing me. And since I got divorced, if you saw Big Fur, you know all about that. But since I got divorced, I've got the house and the farm and the business and everything, and the debt was just killing me. I was working 7 days a week just to get by, and then in June, for some strange reason, I won a lottery, and so I paid everything off, and I signed the business over to my daughter, who's now doing what I do. And I call it a working retirement, and I work for her. But what I'm doing right now is I'm getting all of the obligations that I had in my business, the work I've taken in, I'm getting it done and out. And of course, she gets the money and whatnot for things that are owing, and I have some things that are paid for. So I'm just taking care of that. And then I'm transitioning into a business where I design product for other taxidermists, like the forms that are underneath the skins. And it's an artist royalty. They're sculptures that they make into production molds, and they're sold with my name on them, and I get 10% of retail. So I'm trying to get myself into a royalty income. Nice. Yeah, so I've got plans, I just never had the money to put them in place before, but now I do. So yeah, and I mean, I'm just enjoying the relaxing feeling of not having the debts. I mean, I still get nervous at the end of the month because I must have been institutionalized, from having all my payments. But but I'm starting to get used to the fact that my debts are gone, and all I have to do is just relax. And also, it frees me up to be creative, nice. Which I really appreciate.
Yeah, totally.
We just want to say hello to My Eyes, my good buddy Brent Dill from the Tall Ones, my little sister Nikki from the Hairy Man Hoaxes and Hoodwinks. These are good people, man. I'm glad to have them aboard. Thanks, guys, for showing up tonight. Ken, I wondered about and Lockbeard. Thank you, Lockbeard, so much for being here tonight. What do you have that you have that actually belongs to you? That what's that word? Copyright. Do you have copyrights?
Oh, you mean for my product?
Yeah.
Everything is the whole procedure is photographed to prove that I made everything originally, and then it's registered under the company. It's all copyrighted. What you have to do is you have to be able to prove that you made it and when you made it. With the taxidermy forms, and things like that. I also, believe it or not, write music, and that it goes a little different process.
You have a great voice. You have a wonderful voice.
Thank you.
No, you do a great job with the Pretty Woman and anything that has to do with Roy Orbison, dude. you're slamming it, doing a really great job. So
I did that when I was younger. I was an impersonator for a show called Stars and Legends, and it was a lot of fun. It was pretty cheesy, but we had fun with it. We really did. And I still, I'm still writing songs. I'll hopefully release them. Obviously, if you've seen the Big Fur movie, I wrote the theme song to that. We did it just on the cuff in a studio in Kansas City with Dan Wayne and some really great musicians. We had just a ball, and I think we did 2 Roy Orbison tunes, Pretty Woman and In Dreams. I keep bugging Dan to release In Dreams because you can go on YouTube and see Pretty Woman, but In Dreams turned out a lot better.
That's one of my, I love that song.
It is.
I love that song.
That was Roy Orbison's favorite song.
I love that song.
Little trivia.
So
Yeah.
remember I told you I had met you on a previous show I was a part of. We watched big fans of Justin, but you were on his, you guys combined a show and you presented your Patty. Our German Shepherd was right about a year, was she? Yeah, right about a year. And she went off on that TV as soon as that was into full view. She's never done it before or since.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. She went off on, man, I thought she was going to destroy the television.
That's interesting.
I couldn't believe it. We're just laughing, but we're having to hold her back and she's just going nuts.
That's really interesting. And I'll tell you why that's interesting. I used to have a big male Chesapeake Bay Retriever named Chester. Like everybody names it Chester, but anyways, he was if you know anything about Chessies, they're fearless. They're not afraid of anything. And I had just picked up 4 tigers that they put down at the zoo, and they were like 500 pounds each, and we got them carried into the shop, and they have a very peculiar smell to them, and the reason they put them down, in case anybody's wondering, is because the founder had epilepsy, and they were no longer viable for the Siberian tiger breeding project. So what they have to do is they have to genetic test the tigers that are in captivity and cull the ones that have problems. And so that, I caught wind that they were going to do this, so I purchased the tigers. It was a private zoo. But anyways, that Chesapeake come running into my shop, and he never come around the corner where the tigers were, and he slammed on the brakes. And he did something I've never seen before. He walked backwards, slowly out of the shop, never turned around. Now, he'd never seen a tiger. He doesn't know what a tiger is, but he knew by that smell in my shop there was a tiger in there. And the other thing about tigers is they will not attack anything that is looking at them, which is why the people working in the fields wear a mask on the back of their head. And one guy got eaten because he took his mask off when he ate his lunch. But
he became lunch.
And that's true. This dog, A, from his smell, knew it was a tiger, and B, he knew that he couldn't turn his back on it, and he walked backwards out the door. And of course, he's probably 1,000 generations from ever seeing a tiger,
right,
or more. And but yet, with the smell, he knew what a tiger was, and he knew what to do. And that's pretty amazing. And so now when you talk about animals that are, like he sees this Sasquatch, maybe it's ingrained in him when he saw it that he knew what it was. It's very possible.
It's a she. And
she, yeah.
That's our sweet little Sibylla. So,
I had a 50-50 chance of getting that.
we were just
maybe not. Maybe
we were just stunned that she was literally frothing at the mouth.
And normally she doesn't even acknowledge TV at all.
At all.
It just caught her, and that was it.
I had a lot of reactions from people who've seen Sasquatch, hunters, who come in, and I actually used that model to get stories out of people, because hunters are notorious for not telling what they've seen. And I could tell by somebody's reaction to that model if they'd seen a Sasquatch or not. And it was always the same. Like, somebody would come in, and if they looked at it, they go, "Nah, why, right? What's this?" Right? But some people would come in and they'd look at it, no expression. And then they would turn around and walk away. and act as though they had not seen what they just saw. And those were the ones I stopped them and I said, whoa, 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 you don't get to walk away. I said, you've seen one of those before. And they would always start off with, well, no, I don't. And I say, I've seen one too. Okay, you can tell me. And then I would get some of the most crazy stories. You know,
it'd be neat, Ken, if you took one of your security cameras and put it so when they saw it, you would actually record it, just because it's a security camera. But you could always really focus in on that, what that look is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it go right back to that look. It'd be neat to see what that
it's
like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, it's people are so funny. Probably one of the reasons that I get such good accounts is that they really hope that I won't tell anybody. You know, because people have, you know, when people tell these accounts, they have everything to lose and nothing to gain.
Right.
You know? When somebody's lying to me, you know, they always have a reason to lie. Okay. There's really no reason there to lie when it comes to a Sasquatch account. I think that a lot more people see them than what we even know. There was one guy come in and his buddy was laughing at it, but his friend was not laughing. So I just said to the one guy who was laughing, he was one of my clients. He brought his buddy with him, and I said, "Your buddy has seen a Sasquatch." And I said, "So you might not want to laugh." And he goes, "Yeah, yes, no." And I said, "No, I can tell by the expression on his face. He's seen one." And so the guy said, he said, "Well, I don't really know what it was I saw." And his buddy looked at him. And I said, "You know this guy well. He's never told you." I said, "No." I said, "You know, I mean, he's going to tell you a story." So he said that him and his friend were digging water. He said they were west of Edmonton. And I stopped him and I said, "I'm going to tell you where he saw it." I said, "How close to Cynthia were you, the town of Cynthia?" He said, "Very close." And I said, "How close to the Pembina River were you?" And he says, "I was scooping water out of it."
Mm.
And they went down and filled up 2 buckets. One guy filled up a bucket, and then he went up the trail. The other guy was right behind him. He filled up the bucket. So you kind of got an idea how far apart they were. So what happened was the Sasquatch got up. It was laying flat on the ground like they do. And it got up, and it walked in between the two of them. And he says its head brushed a branch that was 8 feet up. He says it smelled bad. He said it swung its arms like that, get that momentum. He said everything like... And his buddy turned around and he says, he looked at him, he goes, "Did you see that?" And his buddy goes, "Yeah, what was that? Was that an elk?" And he said, "Well, he's walking on 2 legs." He just was walking on 2 legs, and his buddy, my buddy goes, "Yeah."
Dainty elk.
And they got up close. And so then he told me that, you know, I mean, I saw what I saw, but he goes, my mind didn't want to register what I was seeing. And then he turned around to his buddy and he says, "And I never told those guys at work, and you're not going to tell them." And he went through the whole thing. And I said, "No," I said, don't ever tell anybody." He said, you know, I said, "Your buddy saw one. I know he saw one, you know." But I mean, this happens all the time in my taxidermy shop with hunters, and a lot more hunters see Sasquatch than will admit. You know, there are a lot more than people think.
We have a weather event going on right now, so if you guys are hearing stuff, we've got like 70-mile-an-hour winds.
Nice.
Where are you at?
Cougar, Washington, base of Mount St. Helens.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
It's roaring right now too.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we have a question from the chat? Is that okay with you?
That's fine by me.
My Eyes wants to know, Ken, have you had a personal Bigfoot experience, and what do you think it is?
Well, I saw what could only really have been a Sasquatch about 30 some years ago run across the road in an area called the Swan Hills in Alberta. And I was really in the middle of nowhere. And back then it was before they logged in the area or anything like that. And I thought it was a bear. I yelled bear because we were bear hunting. We were driving up and down the Simpson Timber Road out of Blue Ridge. And something ran out in the road, you know, head to toe in black fur. It was pretty far. It was like 300 yards plus ahead of me. And it wasn't very big. It might have been human-sized, maybe a little taller, kind of. Well, if you've ever seen the Memorial Day footage, that is precisely and exactly what I saw. and it ran and it cleared the ditch, and then it ran up a hill without slowing down. And when I say a hill, I don't mean just a little one. I mean a good slope. And it never slowed down, and it was already running faster than anybody I've ever seen run. And I said, "Who is this guy? You know, he must be running into a cut line because he went like 30 miles an hour straight into the trees." But when I got up there was no cut line, just thick bush, and it never sat well with me. And I thought, that guy's going to get himself shot, you know, doing this in bear season. And I never thought much of it until years and years later when I went on my quest, and I found out that the truckers were logging in Kidney Lake in the Swan Hills, and the truckers were being threatened, not just warned, threatened not to talk about seeing Sasquatches on the road at night, which they were seeing. And I looked on the map, and that's pretty much exactly where I saw what I saw. So I went in there, and I found the tree structures, and they were very, very old, but they were definitely tree structures, and they were in areas that had only very recently been opened with brand new roads. You know, it was remote. So yeah, and then I talked to Adrian Erickson, and he told me that they've always been lots of them on the Freeman River, which is just north of Kidney Lake. So that the river dips down there, and of course, so that all those areas kind of blend together. So the area has history. But I saw that. So, but as far as other experiences, I've smelt them out in the Alberta habituation. I got zapped once. I didn't like that. And then basically, you know, just had, you know, like sound experiences, been whistled at. You know, they don't like to tree knock in there because I guess people are in there banging on trees. And you know how it is. If they don't, you know, they don't want to make themselves known. As soon as they know the sounds they're making are recognized, they switch them, you know. And that's an area where they really don't like people. You can't really blame them. But so I've had experiences. I've you know, you can always sense when the darn things are around.
So you say you've been whistled at.
Yeah.
Do you think that may have been a female?
No, there was. Well, what happened was when we go down to there's a place there where there's they pulled a bridge and bermed up the road. Now that area has significance because despite non-disclosure agreements, that is where Dr. Jeff Meldrum apparently saw one with night vision glasses when he was with somebody else we won't talk about. And so, but that area was actually leaked to him by a guy that I took in there who promised he wouldn't take anybody in there, and it turned into a zoo. But that's a whole nother story. But as soon as you cross that river, they like to they have watchers along that road. They're like you know, everybody knows I collected forensic evidence of scat from a nest that was down that road. And there's also one really well-worn trail. It looks like it's very old. And there's tree structures all the way along. You're never out of sight of a tree structure. And the first time I walked down there with another guy, I didn't want to go too far in because I got a feeling that I'm going to at least want a camera, maybe a gun. There's a lot of grizzly in there anyways. But when I went back the next time, the Sasquatch had pushed the first two tree structures by the road. They'd pushed them down. So they didn't want us following those. So obviously that trail went in somewhere. But when I crossed that stream, I had some kids with me, and I told I had a client that, you know, he didn't really believe, but his kids did. They watched Finding Bigfoot on TV and stuff, and they wanted to go there. So I said, yeah, I'll take them out there. And I said, listen for whistles, and we smelt one along the road. And the father wanted to go see what it was, and I said, no, just leave them. Just like. That's what that smell is. It's pretty strong. But when I as soon as I crossed the river or the creek, there was a whistle like that. And then another one answered, and it was like pretty quick, like, so it was fast. And so
see, we've heard that.
I stopped and I went, and there was a little bit of a delay, and I got an answer. So one whistled back at me, and then the kids are going, they're whistling. The kids got so excited. So they all start trying to whistle, and they're like, you know, making these damn noises trying to whistle. And then a third one further back did this whistle. And that was it. All gone. And that was it.
Uh,
So,
Can we get another question here, Ken, if you don't mind? This is from Curious Cryptid.
Mhm.
Would you please describe the experience and sensations you call being zapped?
yeah. I was coming into the area, and luckily I had read about this before, and I knew what was happening because, boy, oh boy, if you don't know what's happening, it's not cool. But all of a sudden, the best way I can describe it was, when that feeling of terror when you have a nightmare, and then you wake up and you're like scared for a little while, and then you realize that was the stupidest dream I ever had. Why was I so scared? It was just like that feeling of terror you have having a nightmare, but you're awake.
Can you kind of give us a setup for that?
Well,
How that all unfolded for you?
Well, I was basically just outside the truck walking down the road. I'm always looking for tracks when I come in. Anywhere the ground is soft enough that I might get even a slight imprint, I just, I want to see if there's grizzlies or anything, but I'm definitely looking for Sasquatch tracks. And all of a sudden, I just got that horrible feeling that just almost disables you. And so I got mad. I started yelling at it, and then it stopped.
Okay, what slow it down for me, Ken. So you're walking down the road. As you're walking down the road, your primal part of your brain's kicking in. That's what you're recognizing happen.
Well, no, whatever. Like everybody I know that has experienced stuff in Sasquatch country, they always talk about an unreasonable amount of fear. And I like that word unreasonable because people are very well aware of their fear thresholds. And they're saying that what I felt was unreasonable. I've never felt fear like that for whatever reason. The one trapper out there that guy's like, he even told me, he said, I'm scared of nothing. He says, the things petrify me. Those are his exact words. And if this guy has a reputation for being one tough dude, and you don't mess with him. Nobody does, but he said those things petrify him, And so
when it hits your body, so you're walking down the road, and all of a sudden this sensory perception's happening. It's happening very quickly. Is that fair?
It just stopped me in my tracks, and I realized right away what was. Luckily, having read accounts of it.
Okay, so as you're in that, are you in a fight? Are you in a fight? Freeze, flee, or frozen?
I froze.
Okay.
I froze because I don't. Whenever it comes to situations, because I was a bear hunting guide for a lot of years, and when I'm tracking a wounded bear, which I've had to do quite a few times, it's usually going to end in some sort of action, and you're anticipating it. It's not a nice feeling. That's when you wish you were on the couch eating cheesies, Like, I think why am I not home with my feet up, and then so you tend to have to go through scenarios in your mind, and the worst thing you can do, it's kind of like a guy, pilots are the same. They'll keep their composure right up until they crash, and usually there's one expletive just before they crash. It's on the box, but so like I just froze, like I'm attempting to recompose myself.
So and when you're frozen, because I've been in that state, I've been stalked by grizzly and cougar and shit. So I get the state you're talking about. I'm trying to slow you down a bit because I whenever I hear people talk about being zapping, I want to find out what's happening in their mind.
Well,
now, I'm not saying it's not. So I want to ask you specific questions. Is that okay? Okay. Thanks. Just tell me. Okay. So when you're in froze, you're hearing your thought process.
Well, it's just it's basically out of control. Fear and panic, the fight. It's been described as fight or flight,
right? And you're at froze in that process.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, do you have awareness of your thought process? Like you said, holy shit, what's going on? Blah blah blah. We get the narration up there in the old skull. Or what?
I wasn't disabled by it, and I never had my memory wiped, but I've seen that happen.
Right.
I've seen memory wipe. That's quite something to process. Like in another person, I've seen it in the middle of the night, and there was something that outside the tent, the guy screamed and he fainted, and he had no memory, none. Right. He went right back to sleep. And I heard whatever it was walking outside the tent, and it sounded like a big, heavy man. It didn't sound like a anything else, you know. And it was
Well,
really,
I'm really into the brain a bit.
Yeah.
This is what makes me curious about just asking these questions, so I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to figure out, because I've been in situations where I have froze. I'm in fight, flight, or freeze, or froze, or faint,
Yeah.
or friendship is the other one people do
Yeah.
to a cougar. Oh, my friend, my little cougar. Just like
Yeah,
sucking the essence right out of you. Rips your throat out of your neck. Sorry, that might be a little graphic for children at home. So I know the zone you're talking about. I'm just trying to have you slow it down so I can, because there's been times when I was froze, my body physiologically is froze because my primal brain's hijacked my whole nervous system, emotional system, but I still have my thought process. So as I recognize what it is, and we all get creeped out in the bush, it could be a fucking squirrel to anything from that to, I don't know, a real bear or a grizzly that you should be freaking out about. But in that process, I noticed that when I noticed what it was, which wasn't anything monstrous or dragonish or demonish kind of thing, like a squirrel, I went and wanted to say to it kind of like, oh, you stupid squirrel. But it didn't come out like that. What came out was like speaking in tongues, you know, it's like, because my motor skills were action,
well,
right?
I've been in the proximity of a lot of very dangerous animals. You know, whether it's a moose defending its calf, whether it's a grizzly bear false charging me. What I experienced was completely different. It's not anything like dealing with the wildlife. It's induced is the best way for me to describe it. It
You have
doesn't.
you have to say it again because you cut out there.
Sorry.
It's just like
it's in whatever it is. It's a type of fear that is induced. It's not my thoughts making me afraid. It's something else that is making me afraid without me being able to control whatever it is that's happening to me. There's no two ways about it. It was an attack. My experience of being zapped have nothing else to compare it to. It was an attempt to get me to leave, and a very good one. There's no other way to say it. I firmly believe that it's based in electromagnetic energy, which is why I wear a Hecs suit now whenever I go looking. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're called HECS, Human Energy Concealment System. I use them for hunting too. The animals don't know what you are because animals, to a very high extent, read electromagnetic energy to the point where I've had animals staring right at me but did not believe I was there because they couldn't sense me, including coyotes, which are running at 600 yards in my country. They walk right up to me, you know, as long as they don't wind you. So because that's my theory, I bring the Hecs suit. I wear it when I go with me. It's a Faraday cage, you know, and I don't ever want to go through that again.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I firmly believe what I experienced was induced and not my mind making me afraid at all, because I know the difference.
I kind of feel that a little bit what you're talking about. A little bit. I don't know how to explain. Never have really been able to explain 100% what happened that night, but knowing that I pulled out the gun, set it down. I pulled out the knife, set it down. I just wanted to make some sort of piece of some kind. I didn't want to be. That's all I had. So I thought it's just me here, and there's probably God knows how many. So I thought to myself that I need to make some sort of a plan, and then you just can't. You can't think straight. I could not think straight that night. I could not get 4 or 5 thoughts to run together. It seemed like, although I knew I was okay. I knew I was healthy. I knew I was okay as far as thinking, but I couldn't get my heart to slow down. I was trying everything I could to. It was definitely I don't know about zap. I don't even know what that means, but
I'm just talking about an experience that is kind of common amongst Bigfoot people who are, Sasquatch researchers who have had an experience, and so that's what they call it. That's why I use the word, I just use the word so that people who are listening to the chatter in the Bigfoot community understand what it is I'm talking about.
Last time I got zapped, she smacked me across my head because I said I didn't like that macaroni and cheese.
No,
Oh.
not like that. That's the main food up in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's good food along with the powdered milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always say, eat how you like to eat when I'm doing my cooking videos.
Mhm.
But I love macaroni and cheese with hamburger, and
Mhm.
she will like come after me with daggers, man. She's like, "You're not gonna put hamburger in this macaroni and cheese." But
That's
yet,
nasty.
being a Texas woman, she'll put kielbasa and sausage
That's
and
different.
all kinds of stuff like that. So,
Moose burger. That's what you
yeah.
want. That is nectar of the gods.
Yes. We have another question, Ken, if you don't mind. What's the strangest story you have heard about a sighting from a client?
Strange. Well, there's some of them. Most of the sightings from hunters are fleeting. I'm just trying to think. Well, I'll tell you a strange story that one that I like, and it wasn't from a client, but it was from an Alberta hunting forum. And I really enjoyed this one because somebody suggested Sasquatch, and the guys just roasted them. They didn't believe in Sasquatches. But the story went like this. They asked on this hunting thread on the Alberta hunting forum, they said, "What's the strangest thing you've seen in the woods?" And so these two guys said that they were hunting in the middle. They decided to go through the thick bush, and I don't know what they were doing, but whether they were trying to push a moose out or whatever. But they said they were about 10 miles in a straight line from the nearest farm country, and they came across a pig stuffed in the crook of a tree about 12 feet up. And so, of course, everybody started saying, "Oh, it's a cougar. It's a cougar," but cougars don't put their prey up a tree because we don't have lions and hyenas. The leopards do. In Africa, but cougars bury. They bury it. In a lot of cases, they're trying to keep it from freezing because they have a real hard time eating frozen meat. So they're trying to actually insulate it so that they can spend a few more days feeding off of a kill before they have to abandon it. Mind you, once the wolves find it, they have to abandon it anyways. But so they were saying that, everybody's saying a cougar, and the guy said, well, he come back on there and he said, before you guys say too much more, he said, this were no wiener pig. Apparently this was like a 400 or 500 pound pig stuffed in the crotch of a tree 12 feet up. Well, we all three of us know it, or all four of us, we know what it was. It's the only thing it could have been. And, but unfortunately, if, there's the old saying, I will see it when I believe it. Most people say, no, it's impossible. The thing doesn't exist. It had to be another reason for it to get up the tree. But no, that's a Sasquatch story if I've ever heard one. Then that was a strange story, and then the nice thing about that story is it came from complete, total non-believers, which are I've always said that when I'm collecting incidents from people, well, there's two types of people. There's people that don't ever want to see one, and there's people that want to see one. Most of the hunters that I've talked to are the people who wish they had never seen one. They didn't ever want to see one, and they wish they hadn't.
I wish I'd never seen it. I wish I'd never seen it.
Those are your best witnesses. They really are, because right away they're coming from a place where they have everything to lose by telling you the story and nothing to gain. If somebody's lying to you, they lie for a reason. And I have gotten some pretty suspect stories from people who just want to see a Sasquatch around every corner. Don't mind me. I need this light for this, and it's on a timer. But you know what I'm saying? Like, the best witnesses you can have are the ones that are reluctant. I remember. There's quite a few people that collect stories and collect accounts. Of course, there's so much on the internet about this subject. It's very, very popular. But I listen to everything. I don't discount a thing I hear. I just listen to it. If I have an opinion that people might not like about the story I've just heard or the account, I keep my mouth shut. You know, I just catalog it, because I've had suspect stories, and then all of a sudden a year later somebody corroborates it in a way that they couldn't understand. So then I have to go back and I have to consider the plausibility of something that I didn't want to believe. You know, and we all know there's strange stories out there. You know, I guess you know, it's really hard to talk to witnesses about strange things. You get the account, and then if you know the person real well, they might tell you something stranger that happened in relation to it a year later. But you know, I had a girl working in my shop. She worked there for 3 months. Young girl, 21 years old. Her and her mom worked in the shop, and they knew all about me looking for Sasquatches. And she worked in there for 3 months before one day she pulled out her Apple iPhone and showed me 17 photographs of a big Sasquatch standing on a hill outside of Whistler Ski Resort when they were driving the back roads back to Vancouver. There it was. It was far away. It was across the lake and up on the cliffs, but you know, it sat down, it got up, and you know, she took all these pictures of it, and then they said it was still there when they drove away. They watched it for 20 minutes. And you know, the biologist that I worked with when I did the new mounts for the museum here in Edmonton, he, you know, he's retired now, so I can talk to him about this. But he looked at the pictures and he asked her, "Do you think it was a Sasquatch?" And she said it really couldn't have been anything else. And the mother said it was about 10 foot tall. And then she said, "I'm part native." She told the biologist, she says, "I'm part native. This isn't new to me. I know a lot of people who know about these creatures, and I just happened to have seen one. And I just happened to have taken 17 pictures with my iPhone." And but 3 months in my shop, knowing, you know, that I'm collecting all these stories and I'm not going to ridicule anybody before she even tells me or shows me. You know, that's very hard to get accounts from people. And those are the accounts you want. Those are the ones you want.
You mind if we show some pictures of what your work?
Oh, I don't mind. No.
Shall we, my love?
I have to stop out just for a couple seconds, but I'm still be paying attention.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Let's see. Let's show this one of the cats.
Love this. Love it.
Oh, that's sorry. Got to go back.
Ken with
There it is.
there you go.
Oh,
That's beautiful.
oh, that's in Europe. Okay, that's the work I do training the people at in Hungary at First Class Trophies Studio. Those mounts were actually done by the team there with my assistants, and of course they used that photograph for promotion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just because of my reputation over the years, I've got some pretty sweet gigs, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking Ken Walker, Tiger King too. You know?
Well, you know, when I was working in China, their name for me was well, I couldn't pronounce it, but it translated to white tiger because I have blue
Really?
eyes, and white tigers have blue eyes, and of course they, like, people in China would come up and stare. You know, they've seen blue eyes in pictures, but people just don't move around there. And I was in a place where there was no foreigners, and also I was born in the year of the tiger. So that was kind of significant to them. But the most significant thing was that my birthday is actually on the 8th of the month. And there is an 8 on every single number in China because they have no religion, but they have superstitious.
Yeah.
And 8. There's people will not go into a business unless there's an 8 on the door. They won't stay in a hotel room unless there's an 8 in front of it. So every hotel room has an 8 before the number.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So I laughed about it, and I said to my translator, I asked her, I said, I was born on the 8th, and she said, "Oh, we know," because and they have a name for people born on the 8th, and they consider us really lucky. But with me, it just might be true.
Let's give a couple more shout outs. Lester Taylor, thank you so much for showing up tonight. Scotty, Grasshopper's one of my favorite people in the world. Thank you guys. The support is wonderful. So Ken, you were just recently featured in a major magazine also. that you weren't even aware you were in. Can you tell us about that?
Hey, girl.
Well, I did they put my piece from the European Championships on the cover of the world's foremost trade magazine for taxidermists called Breakthrough Magazine.
Nice.
And there's only 4 issues a year. And to get a cover, you can't. There's no way to get a cover. You have to. They have to like your piece, or if you win a major show, you'll get on the cover. And I actually lost my my category by 1 point, and rightfully so. When I saw the other piece, it was actually a dog. I knew it was going to outscore me. It was very, very good, and it did. I didn't mind. But I was expecting that piece to be on the cover of the magazine, but they didn't do it. And it's an American magazine. It's out of Louisiana, and they put my my road ears up on that cover. And there were some hard feelings over it. I had nothing to do with me, but on the other hand, there's a law in the United States that you cannot use any part of a dog or a cat for commercial purposes. There was a law that the Humane Society lobbied for to stop, trinkets and stuff coming from Japan or not Japan, I should say China, that were made of, domestic dogs and cats. They just, but as a result, it affects a lot of other things. So there's a very good chance that the dog couldn't have been on the cover of the magazine. It could have actually attracted some attention and could have got a lobby from animal rights to shut him down.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance it wasn't legal. So
in the modern day in America, the animals have more rights than human beings. That's straight up the truth.
Yeah, they can still fly in my country. I can't. And they can also walk across the border. I can't.
You got people dying from hitting deer, in the eastern part of our country because no hunting. So you got a billion of them. People just don't understand. I love animals too, but I also know you have to do, things.
They have to be managed. But who's actually in those places where the collisions are high? Do you know who's making a difference in opening hunting seasons? Is the insurance companies.
Yep.
They're actually having quite an effect in areas like if they're just telling people in areas where everybody's feeding the deer and nobody wants them, that your insurance premiums are going to quadruple unless you guys open in a hunting season. In Strathcona County outside of Edmonton here opened a shotgun season for deer in cottage country there because for that very reason. There was so many deer collisions. And of course our whitetails weigh, 300 pounds on a buck, so there's fatalities involved. So they had a lot of input. But yeah, you'd be surprised. Like insurance companies are starting to have more say in wildlife management in some areas than anybody.
So Ken, one of my favorite people as far as a comedian goes is a guy called Lester Taylor, and he's in our chat tonight. And he says it's hard looking at Ken's hair, wondering what could have been. Thank you so much, Lester.
That's hilarious.
I know. I'm you guys. I'm going to be 60 in a few weeks, and I got all this
hair on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't go for a haircut. I usually go for about 3 or 4 estimates and then a haircut.
That's awesome.
My niece cuts my hair and she's been really busy. And of course, with this COVID thing, I literally got to, walk out into the back alley, it's like, psst, you want to buy a haircut,
Yeah.
And like, seriously, I've had to, carry a box and a UPS hat on or whatever just to get into her house to get my hair cut in case Karen, the neighbor, sees me.
Oh yeah, the YouTube Karens, yeah.
And I gotta have something to pull over so they can't tell that I had a haircut,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, my hair grows really, really fast, and also too, you can always tell how much which decade people had the most fun in by the way they wear their hair, and it's obvious I had a lot of fun in the 70s,
I have no choice for the decade. I just went bald. My bad.
Yeah, no. My whole family is like this. We all, my father's 93 and he's got all his hair.
Okay, stop. Joe was talking the other night about, how people have 4 heads. Well, I have a 5 head. I'm doing this so much from the craziness. Crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's actually funny you talk about that. When I was building the patty model, every single hominid, whether it's a Neanderthal, Homo erectus, or whether it's a gorilla or even primates, when you get up to the brow ridge, the head goes straight back. The only basically primate that has a straight up forehead is Homo sapien, and that's us. And so whenever people, tell me that, Paddy was a guy in a mask, I tell them, I said, then the eyes are on the top of his head, because literally, if you made a mask from the dimensions of Paddy's face, you wouldn't be able to pull it down to your eyes. It'd be impossible, because it slopes straight back to the point. So it's funny you talk about foreheads. It's, if you're a Sasquatch, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
So Jay, you have his pictures of the Sasquatch taxidermy. Sasquatch?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah. I want to take a peek at them.
I'm gonna make my next one. I'm gonna probably use latex skin. I think it'll work a lot better than this polyurethane that I used. I did make this model a little too quickly, but it was fun. Paddy was just under 7 feet tall, and it was really interesting because when I had the measurement chart that John Green had done from measuring trees and stuff on site. But what I did is, in one of the stills, you can see the bottom of Paddy's foot really well, and you can measure it. So I made it's just under 15 inches. So I made a measuring stick from the foot, and then I went from joint to joint, from the ankle joint to the knee joint to the hip joint. And basically everything that Bill Munn's kind of corroborated is what I found out, is that the femur was longer, the shin is shorter, and the foot is longer. And that's the reason when Paddy or any Sasquatch walks, their shin is parallel to the ground. And so, but when I did my measurement chart, I compared it to John Green's, and it was completely 100% identical. It was the same, it was the same measurements. So John Green's chart, in my opinion, is the most accurate when it comes to measurements.
Do you know, Ken, a lot of people have no idea about the John Green thing. They literally just, history has skipped over what John Green did with that. He literally took a man up there within just a few weeks of that, 6'5", and walked that entire path. Nobody ever talks about that. That is important information.
Yeah, it is very important. The other thing too, and everybody always says to me, how can you say that film's real? And I said, first of all, nothing I'm going to tell you is going to convince you, but I will tell you what I have observed. I said, according to the measurement chart, Paddy's hips are 28 inches wide. Okay. Now you have to remember that Paddy's arms hang straight down. They're not whenever somebody's in a suit, their arms always stick out at an angle because you can't really put your shoulder balls apart, the shoulder joints. The center of the shoulder joints were literally 36 inches from center to center on Paddy's shoulders. Okay. In order for those big, heavy arms to hang straight down at her side, like they did. So I defy anybody to take a measuring tape, go into any gym. I don't care how big the people are in there. Find somebody where you measure from the center of their shoulder joint 1 yard to the center of the next one. It ain't going to happen. It's outside of human parameters, which is what Bill Munn said. The shin is shorter, the femur's longer, the arms are longer. Everything is completely out of whack with human parameters. Was
it similar to the Inuvic's body style? Because they're shorter, they're longer on top and shorter legged, right? That's what you can ask yourself, when you look at the Paddy's measurements, is it that her legs are shorter or is it her arms are longer? But it gives that effect, and the other thing too that I've talked with people about, and I've always had people have always said things like, why do they walk in a straight line, 1 foot in front of the other? I think there's less than 3 inches of deviation from side to side on a Sasquatch track, whereas more like 6 inches of deviation from side to side on a human trackway. But that's actually really easy to explain, because the first thing you really notice if you have a trained eye when you see the Patterson footage slowed down and stabilized, and that is that this animal is extremely heavy. And what it is using to walk is momentum. And that is why they have the compliant gait where their legs don't completely straighten out.
is because they have to basically flow once they get the momentum going. But it's just like a unicycle. The feet on something that heavy have to be completely in the center of balance. So
how would that affect the track pathway in the winter in snow?
The track pathway in the winter, it was funny because I sent some snow tracks to John Bindernagel, and they were about 4 feet of snow. That one year, I don't know how many years, 10 years ago or whatever, we had a ton of snow. And the tracks deviated from side to side more. And he wrote me a letter back and he said, most people don't realize this, but he said he's looked at deep snow trackways and he says they actually deviate because of the way the Sasquatch is forced to walk. He says that's the only time you see the side to side deviation. The tracks in that trackway were about 3 feet apart and they were 18 inches long.
Do you remember which area he was talking about?
Yeah, well, the area where I got the tracks was the Alberta Habituation up in up down the Forestry Trunk Road closer to the Cardinal. And then the thing ran. It ran to go up the berm, the big snow berm from the grader, and the tracks went to 8 feet apart, and that's in 4 feet of snow. So
is that from running?
Yeah,
They're running, because I can't imagine. I'll put myself out there. I don't see something walking and making 8 or 9 foot strides.
Yeah, they have to run, but in order to get the momentum to go up the berm, it took a few running steps. I do believe, if I've read the accounts correctly from the Patterson sighting, they said that once Patty was out of sight, her tracks actually went that far apart. She waited until she was out of sight of the people, and then she ran. And then they said that she circled all the way around and came back and sat on top of the ridge and watched them cast tracks all day, which I've always found very interesting because I think they said that they were tracking Patty and 2 smaller ones earlier in the day coming down that river. And there's a really good chance she stashed those young ones and actually went out into the open, just like a bird would with pretending its wing is injured, just to lead the people away.
Yeah.
Now, see, I talked to Renee Hinnon about this.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, way back was 94, maybe 90, somewhere in there. Anyway, early 90, probably 91. Because I thought to myself, not only did she look like when a woman has just had a baby within a month or so, when I watched, because he owned the still photos, first generation still photos, right?
Yep.
You'll never believe until you've laid eyes on those, right? That looked to me like a woman that's lost her shape from recently having a baby. I'm trying to be respectful here.
You're on thin ice, mister. You better be careful.
It looked to me by examining those 16 photos way back then.
Yep.
Plus, I like to mention, without there's a joke in everything, right? But you can see the nipples clearly.
Okay.
Clearly. Now, if you're gonna hoax, because let me tell you something, Patterson did have a book out where he made a female. He drew a female.
Yeah.
But these you could see nipples.
Yeah.
And you can see an angry look on her face in these photos, and you can see it looked to me like she was trying to lead them away.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought to myself, there must be a child somewhere in there.
Yeah.
There has to be.
Well, look at the mountain of evidence. Look at what we call evidence nowadays. Anything from look at the Freeman footage. What did that Sasquatch do? It came back and picked up a young one. When there's young ones, they make mistakes. I mean, for as controversial as it is, look at the Sierra Kill story. I've got a few more that I haven't made public that I'm still investigating because they still could. There could be proof. But when there's young ones involved, that's the only time those beings make mistakes. Otherwise, they don't make mistakes. But when there's young ones involved,
you're dealing with a toddler.
Yeah,
like control a toddler in a mall.
Yeah,
we had a juvenile. We had a juvenile in our camp, and that's why the whole damn thing kicked off from the beginning.
Yeah, and that I believe that whole like completely, and that's what like you know, if you look at the mountain of film and evidence and look at the stuff that you know that people can't really explain away, there's a lot of times there's even the Memorial Day footage when they ran across the hillside, it looks like it's lifting something up onto its shoulder as it goes into the trees. You know, there's so many accounts, and of course, and then if you just even if you get onto all of the databases for the different organizations and read about you know why people have seen them, and yeah, and then now you just confirmed it again by saying what you did. So yeah, I firmly believe that if it wasn't for the young ones, we wouldn't have near as much evidence as we do now.
And you notice there's not a lot of evidence of the younger ones. That's rare. And one thing that we noticed was that when we got bluff charge that night, we found a 9-inch track, and it was the big toe was bulbous, kind of like round.
Yeah.
And then you had the other toes. Now I've only seen that here on Mount St. Helens.
Okay.
And it was right about 9 inches.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, and it was kind of even square. But
really?
It was right at where the female the month previous walked directly, took an abrupt and walked in just like that, one fluid motion.
Yeah.
And that is exactly when I dropped apples and pears off there. And there it was right there. And I didn't think you could, I personally didn't think you could cast the print. But then when I look at it, you know, I mean, you'd have to really, you'd really have to look at it to see it. You can see it, but I had such an old, stupid phone at the time when I filmed that footprint, and it was right off the trail. There was no reason to be anymore because it just happened to step a foot in that ash.
Yeah.
The rest is just walked off into the forest.
Yeah.
That's the night we got bluff charged. There was a child in there. It was obvious there was a child in there.
Yeah. And yeah. Well, that was funny because the smaller tracks that we find here always have a narrow heel, quite a narrow heel on them. It seems like the older they get, the more their heel widens out. Now, my trapper friend, he saw a big one up close and very personal. And he said it stepped out from behind a tree, and then it stepped back from behind the tree and looked out, you know, peeked at him. And then he says it ran away. And he told me it was massive, and he said that he wasn't going to tell me how big it was. I wouldn't believe him. And I said, well, I know a little more than you think, because this guy, all his experience is from actually seeing the darn things. And I asked him how big the track was, and he said the track was 18 3/4 inches long. And I told him, I says, your creature was 10 foot tall. And he told me that he measured the tree later, and he says it was 9 feet 10 inches slouching. You know how the big ones slouch? He said with that slouch, it was still that tall. And he said its legs were like garbage cans. He said it was huge. And but he also told me that in this one other area where I'm pretty sure they winter, well, I'm very sure. I know Justin's been looking that area quite a bit.
Is that where the cave is? He's trying
yeah,
to go to?
Yeah, he got all that information from me. I know where it is, and I told him where it is, but I don't know if he knows exactly where I'm talking about. I might have to go out with him. But anyways, the trapper told me that every December, the biggest track he's ever seen moves into that area. And I've never actually asked him how long it was. But, I mean, if 19 inches is not the biggest track he's seen, it's got to be pretty big. But then I met a girl named Dawn Laurendale she's a taxidermist she's in the Big Fur movie. She's from Hinton. She's seen 2 Sasquatches real clear. She saw the big one right in that same spot. Actually, it was within sight of where the cave is. And she doesn't know that, and nobody knows that, but I found out, I put it all together later. But she said it was gray, and it stood there, and as soon as she looked up from the quad, she was the only one of all these quadding people that saw it. She said she never even told her boyfriend about it. She just saw it. And she says, as soon as she looked at it, she says it turned to its left and walked between 2 big trees. And so I went and stood there where she saw it behind the berm, and she could see this much of me when I was standing where it was. And I asked her what she saw, and she said she saw it in the same spot from the hips up.
Jesus.
Wow.
She said it was like unacceptably big. Just, she said you can't wrap your mind around how big this thing was. And it was gray, which, they get older, they get gray. So I think she saw that big one, because now I have anecdotal evidence of the biggest track in the same place. Like when I say the same place, it's, in the summertime, it wouldn't be more than an hour's walk from.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So when we always say, it's within the same area and all that, there's a ridge up here where we had our encounter. It's miles long, but there's a certain amount of camps. This is all dispersed camping. I don't know in Canada if that's the same thing. It's just it's a non-maintained, off the road type of stuff. And there's a ridge up there, and that's last year we took my friend up there. We had Brent Dill up there, Steve Curious Cryptid up there, and my friend's daughter, before all that, was whooping, and she was getting a whoop back. For every whoop she did, she got a whoop back.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it went like 4 or 5 times, and then it just went silent. But that's because her little sister was going to kill her. No, that's the truth.
Yeah.
It was
not happy.
No, and we all heard it. It was just like, that was unbelievable. I never think to, that's kind of where we get in trouble with a lot of people, is we don't think to record things. We're actually up there as a family unit with my close friend, with his daughters. We're cooking. I'm filming a cooking show and all this. And you think I'd be a little smarter than that. You think I would. And be recording these kinds of things. But
the thing is, you play that stuff for somebody, they never want to believe it. If you have somebody, but if you have somebody standing beside you, it's a whole different story. I took some friends of mine, Alice Markham from Hollywood and LK from London, and they're all taxidermists. They were all out for a course at my place, and I said, well, let's go up to the Sasquatch place. And every time I get out of the vehicle there at the berm, where apparently, Dr. Meldrum saw this thing, I always give a very distinct call, always, so that they know it's me. And when I get there, I do it. And it was just a sound that I learned off of the Sierra sounds. And then when I leave, before I get in the truck, I stand there and I do this call. So I told the girls that before we got there. And so I got out and I did this call, and something answered back with just like a single syllable, like, just like that. And Elle from London goes, "Did you hear that?" She's like, no, I heard that. And she's looking at me and her eyes are this big. And I just said, she said, "Could that have been one?" I said, "It was probably one." I said, "They're always here. This is where they sit. Well, they know that's the only way to get back into this country. And they want to know who's coming and going. And so they're usually here." That's where I heard the whistles too, the same place. And but I always go in there. I remember once I was riding my quad up the trail, and I ran into that guy whose name we won't mention. And he looked at me and he says, "Why are you riding that?" And I said, "Well, I want to get to the river today." And he said, "They can hear that, And I said, "Do you honestly think you're in here fooling these things?" I said, "No." I said, "Honest to goodness gracious," I said, "make as much noise as you can. Make sure they know it's you." I said, "That's what I do. You're not going to fool these things ever." I said, so I will let them know I'm here. I'll let them know who I am, and I'll go about my business. Like when something is skulking, it's usually hunting, or, and you don't want to come across as like you're hunting them, because they're too smart for that. I mean, they're smarter than we are, really, in a lot of ways. So, like I told him, I couldn't believe he said that. Like, he accused me of not being stealthy enough, and I'm just laughing,
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. You see these shows sometimes on any of these cable channels, any of them. Who gives a shit what the name is? They're all the same, right? So let's just put this in perspective. It's
Mhm.
we're out here. Or something over there. Are you out of your freaking mind?
You
Come
can't
on.
even do that. You can't do that with a moose. Like when you're calling moose, if you honest to God, I mean, once they're within a couple hundred yards, you can't fart. They'll hear you. And I mean, they're like, and I told those guys, I went on one of those expeditions, and they were great guys. And it isn't that they're dumb. It's just they don't know any better. Like, really,
Yeah.
they're not hunters, you know. But I told them, I said, you guys, if we were calling moose, I said, we'd be busted like on the way in here. I said, you know, I know we're out here having fun. I said, but you know, I just understand that you're not fooling anybody or anything out here. If they answer back, it's because they're bored. You know, you're entertaining them right now. You're not doing anything else. But I mean, it's all cool. But what I find is a lot of people, like, I mean, when you're a hunter and you're raised in the woods hunting, you know, when you get somebody who's not and they're out in the woods, it's like a fish out of water, really. And so when I watch a lot of these shows, some of the people are really good. You know, they're pretty. They're used to being out there. But for the most part, you know, it's all new to them. Like I wouldn't even think of looking for Sasquatches in an area that I wasn't familiar with, because
Or in 10 feet of snow, and I mean,
yeah,
that's one thing that's got me with all these shows is, what are you doing up there with 10 or 15 feet of snow, and you can't even we can't take up a helicopter today because of weather. So why are you there?
yeah,
Why don't you go in the spring?
yeah.
Why don't you go in the middle of summer? Why don't you go in the fall? That's the problem. And if more people get on board with this, wait a minute, we're gonna go look for Sasquatch. I got you, Grasshopper. Thank you for that. He sent me some good stuff. This is about Ken tonight, okay? Thank you so much. But when I used to watch those shows,
Yeah.
I would be like, here's Bobo up there. Oh man, I remember the last time. Oh man, we were out there partying in California. Oh man. And then you're like, you know, I saw Dog Man, and you know, and then you got this 20 feet of snow, and they're just like flying over this. Going, I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
What are you doing?
the best part of the shows is always that when they're talking to the witnesses, and then you basically hear the story of what they experienced, and then when they go out there, you know, if you're kind of experienced in the woods, you kind of get an idea of where they saw the creature, and then you can say, okay, that makes sense, because you know, where I go and look, where people are seeing them, there's pretty much the same thing. You know, you got a valley, you got a ridge, you know, they're basically being covert. I can usually, I'm entertained by a lot of these shows, but I always try to look at where they are, and also the caliber of people that they're bringing, you know, the witnesses. And usually the witness, you know, that's the best part, is they come out and they tell you, you know, because they had literally, for the most part, a once in a lifetime experience. And so you get to kind of, you hear their story and then see them in there. And of course, these guys got to do something. They got to do something to burn up an hour of TV time. And
Yeah.
yeah.
But you know what? With all the okay, so I film a cooking show every week, Ken. Every week I film a cooking show.
Mhm.
She has to sit there for 3 hours, sometimes 4, to just cut it down to half an hour.
Yeah.
So, and I would like to say, Grasshopper, thank you for this. These are huge tracks he sent me. He's a local guy here in Washington State, Grasshopper ETAI. And thank you so much, brother. He's always got something good, but they're impossibly huge. And he's right. These are great, but I can't show them tonight. We will do this on another show. But I really appreciate that. But yeah, you know, when you talk about when you're editing down nothing, how many hours or days of footage do these guys do on these shows?
Mhm.
And then you're editing down to there's nothing. There's nothing. So I'm cooking something on a flat rock. I'm cooking something on a barbecue. I'm cooking something on an open fire. She breaks that down and presents our show,
Mhm.
every week. So, it all comes down to the editing. But what are you editing? You're editing nothing. I mean, that's the thing. And then when you get these guys, here it is, all these years after, what was it? Looking for Bigfoot or finding Bigfoot or whatever it was.
Mhm.
Now they have a podcast where almost every other episode is questions and answers for Cliff and Bobo.
Yeah.
So that's not where I want to be in 10 years after I've done something. Questions with Jay. I
I have a question.
Here's a question.
Ken, from your perspective, you can filter out other people's concepts and ideas. What do you think we're dealing with?
A hominid.
What else?
Um,
First of all, why?
well, I can tell you, I have talked to people who've shot them and have stood over them and looked down at them dead, and not any of the incidents that you guys know about. These are
Right.
And they basically said that it's man, but it's not us. That is how it was described. And one of the these things do get shot, and what ends up happening is the people who shoot them, for whatever reason, and like the people that I know, other than the Sierra thing, had a really good reason to protect themselves with a rifle, and but they don't want anybody to know they shot one of these things because it's a little too human, is how they put it. Like enough that they feel like they killed a person. And I know some of these people. I've got about 3 new cases since that fiasco that happened in the Sierra Nevadas, and I don't share them anymore because of all of that. What happened with that one? But no, and the other thing too, I can tell you right now that if this was just an animal, I would have already stuffed one for the museum here. What we're dealing with is something that is far smarter than us on the ground, and it's also something that a certain demographic of our society doesn't want us to know about. And so if there's ever anything that slips through the cracks, it seems like they're able to collect it up and deal away with it. There's like you know, you see somebody come on to a site and you think some troll goes after him, like he's on a Sasquatch forum and then somebody's ridiculing the guy so bad he never comes back. That's not a random person. That's their job. That's the person's job. And there's people out there like that. There's a very organized effort. I compare it to the Alberta Rat Patrol. If you phone in a complaint about a rat in Alberta, there's a team there, like right now. Well, I think they have the same thing for the big guy. I talked to somebody the other day who set up a little incident to see who would show up. They got talking on phones that they had a dead one and they were going to move it. The whole thing was a setup. Like it was a lie, but they wanted to see if there was anybody listening. And so they went to this rendezvous point where they were going to take this dead one and switch it to the other guys. And it was quite elaborate. And yeah, people showed up. And then they left very quickly.
Well, I don't know. I don't necessarily know if that's, I'm sorry. Being a fellow Canadian, I don't buy a lot of that style of thinking. But
the guy I was talking to, it happened in the States. But
because I've been on here before. Like when I worked in forestry, we had a grizzly, and we were on the radio. Lots of people eavesdrop the radio in the forest. Lots of people. Listen to a guy. I listened to a wife say goodbye to her husband, and then her lover showed up next on as she was away, and she's talking about how much she loved him. So I don't know if open channels necessarily mean that no one's going to see it. They could hear whatever they interpreted it was. But again, going back to the question for you specifically, what do you think we're dealing with?
A hominid.
And what's entailed in that? What's in the package of that?
And actually, I think that there's some credence. Now, one of the interesting things, like we've all heard about the DNA study from Melba Ketchum, you know, and of course, you know, all of the crazy. I got involved in that thing without even wanting to, because Adrian Erickson called me up, and I know Adrian real good. I really like that guy. And anyways, it just got to be a big fight between a bunch of other people that I got pulled into. But the best thing that happened out of that whole thing was a guy named Richard Substad called me, and I got to know him. I speak some Norwegian and he speaks Danish, so we could speak to each other, and you know, we had a lot of fun. But he was fighting cancer, and it took his life. But he was one of the people, one of the scientists that was working on that study, and he told me a whole bunch of stuff. And basically, what he said was he got into that study just so he could disprove it and people would stop talking about it. He said he wasn't in that study for very long before he realized what he was dealing with was real. And he talked about the mitochondrial DNA being human and you know, with DNA now, they know where and when. I don't know the first thing about that. But he said that the mitochondrial human DNA was traced back to an area in Eastern or in Europe 30,000 years ago, in an area that was isolated by ice. And he said that so what you're dealing with was a hybridization. Now, when it comes to human DNA, they know that the only pure Homo sapien DNA is in Africans. You know, everything else is mixed up to some extent. There's a little bit more Neanderthal DNA in Native Americans and Asians, is what I was told. And they said in white Europeans like ourselves, there is another hominid mixed in there that has yet to be identified, probably Homo erectus or Heidelbergensis or something. But what he was saying that was, so we're basically a hybrid species in a lot of ways. Now, when they first did the human genome, they couldn't understand why white people had so much junk DNA until they did the Neanderthal genome and realized that 5% or more was Neanderthal of what they thought was junk. And there's still some junk in there they haven't identified in white people. So the way that Richard Substad described it was, it is a similar mix of different hominids, but not the same mix as we are. It's a different mix.
Well, yeah, there's 5 different ghost genes.
And so that's so
we don't know what they are. We don't have any skeletons. We don't have any fossil record for them whatsoever. They're out there somewhere in the chain. So that's what you're talking about. Or
well, they have to be, because in the DNA, what they used to call junk DNA, each time when they discover, oh crap, when they were able to make the Neanderthal DNA, make that genome, make that possible, and then just from a few little finger bones and things like that of Denisovan. Now we find out, what we've been told is junk DNA forever. Well, here's 2 pieces of junk, been solved. We're definitely hybrids ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so the Richard Substad basically said that you know, that is what the Sasquatch is, from what he worked on. But then, and I the next part of the story is, you know, he got fired, or he got let go from the study when they got very close to fruition. And I am not going to repeat what he told me. I'm just not going to repeat it, because there will be people all freaking out, because, you know, it just come down to personalities and stuff in that whole thing. And I don't know these people really. I knew Richard and I know Adrian, but I don't know anybody else involved in that. And after hearing all of the problems they had, I don't want nothing to do with it. You know, I'm just glad that there's people out there looking. I just wish they'd all get along. But you know, but I mean, from what I know and what people have told me, and you know, there's so much there's so much that can be said about the trajectory of evolution.
Right.
And I mean, like I talk about my my theory on electromagnetic energy. Well, dogs communicate with electromagnetic energy.
Right.
If you're petting one dog in the kitchen and the other one's laying down in the other room, it will jump up and run over into the kitchen because it knows the other dog is being petted and it wants to be petted too.
That's not called that. That's called emotional energy discharge, is what you're talking about.
Well, it's electromagnetic energy that they share. And it's like a network. If you've ever seen wolf packs, and I have, they'll all stand up at the same time. They'll all turn right and they'll all walk. Okay, like 10 of them, and this is what they do. And when it's time for, like, 2 are worrying a moose, when those 2 wolves get tired, 2 more will stand up, they'll sit down, and then they'll take over until the moose is completely tired. They'll tire it and shift. Yep. This all is communication is seamless. And so if you look at animals, they'll make a few rudimentary sounds. Okay. For example, a dog, we'll use a dog as an example. When it comes to sounds, it whines, it yipes, if it's hurt, it growls and it barks, so you got like 5 or 6 sounds that a dog on average makes. Okay. Now you got a human. I don't think anybody's ever counted the sounds. I mean, we make music, we do poetry, we can describe the stars to another person that are universes that are thousands of light years away, that and make the person understand. We have evolutionized the sound to such an extent that a dog could never even begin to comprehend what we do with sounds as compared to what it does with sounds. Well, imagine if there's another animal like a hominid, like a Sasquatch, that has basically evolved electromagnetic energy manipulation that all animals have. We all have it to an extent, but imagine that they've taken that as far as we've taken, sounds. So, and it makes sense because, I mean, you can get an eel about 1.5 feet long that can produce enough electrical current to kill a man on a horse and the horse. Okay. And also too, like, a lot of the people, especially the natives, talk about the red eye shine in Sasquatch. There's been, like, I've talked to people, very good witnesses, that said they saw a red eye shine with no outside light source. Now, anything that shines through blood is going to shine red. It's kind of like people. So I take this stuff in and I kind of theorize with it. It's all theory, but it does tend to make sense. Now, I called a Sasquatch in to the berm area with Dan when we were filming Big Fur. We were camped out there, and I ran it by him. I said, I got a theory I'm going to test it, because we were out there in the end of November or end of October, beginning of November, which is when the trapper told me they gather before they go into the mountains. They gather in that area. So I let out 2 of those whooloop calls, like from the Sierra Sounds. The one that goes, that one. I did 2 real sharp ones. And I says, no more than that, because if you call again, now he's listening. And I says, so if he's close by, he's going to come and check us out, just to make sure that wasn't Fred that he hasn't seen for 2 years. Yep. So I said, if my theory is correct, your dog, and the dog was curled up sleeping, I said, your dog's is going to react. And I said, do I have any mystical, magical powers over your dog? And Dan said no. And I said, okay. I said, your dog will react very, very hard. I said, if he comes in. And 10 minutes later, that dog jumped up and was trying to bark, and it couldn't even bark. It was going, and it pissed down its own legs, and it went over there, and it was stuck against Dan's legs, and it was fixed on the ridge directly downwind, about 100 yards away. That's actually where they were whistling from too. And Dan's eyes were this big, and he's looking at me, and we were drinking some wine from these little glasses, and I just said, he's on the ridge. But the dog reacted. And because they're sensitive to electromagnetic energy, I think that went a long way to proving to me that my theory is plausible. You can't prove things unless you do the right kind of study, but you can only do what you can do.
But right study for who's who.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like,
it's like I say, I think Ron Moorhead's so full of shit, his eyes are brown.
Yeah, but people, if you make
your sound, look. It'd be one thing if 20 people in 50 years have found the same sounds. Nobody.
Oh, listen, I've used those sounds a number of times with people who said they've heard something, and I've played the sounds for them. And I've had people corroborate that what they heard, especially when it comes to that chatter, was like when they heard voices, like it was a guy from Alaska at one of the taxidermy shows came and got me, and we sat down and we talked about it. And listen, I like to listen to everything. I want to hear what everybody's got to say. I want to know, and I still remember the thing with the trapper told me that every time they stole from his traps, they always left 3 rocks on top of his marten boxes. He said every single time they stole my bait, they leave me 3 rocks. And I thought that was interesting. And then there was that, remember the woman that says they come into her barn and they eat out her horse feed and unscrew the tops on the things and then take the horse feed and then they screw the top back on. And she says, I can always tell when they've been in there. I was reading her account. She said, because they leave 3 rocks on the top of the horse feed. Well, I thought I was kind of laughing and chuckling at all this stuff until she said that. Because this trapper doesn't even own a computer. He don't talk to anybody, don't listen to anybody, don't know nothing. But I just got corroboration from him on something that she said. Okay, so does that prove anything? No, but it goes a long way into making me listen. I just want to put as much of this information together and try to corroborate as much of it as I can. I mean, I've heard a lot of people, like especially in the realm of the Bigfoot world, and a lot of the things that you see online talk about UFOs in conjunction with Sasquatches. I have never yet had a witness tell me that they saw a UFO in conjunction with a Sasquatch. Now,
you have
$6 million man, $6 million man. It was in his show.
but you still usually have people like the people that wrote the Sasquatch tracks and stuff. I don't know where they get their information, because what you do, you're either gonna go woo or you're gonna use your brain.
Yeah,
and that's Timothy Renner. I love that guy. I do. I like his show and all that stuff. But you got him, Joshua Cutchin, and we're just gonna tell you, oh well, because some weirdos said Bigfoot walks out of portals, and where did that footprint go? Look, I've been a hunter my whole life. I grew up on like major acreage. I've watched deer tracks and then go, where'd they go? Where'd they go?
Yeah, me too.
Same thing with elk. Where'd they go?
They backtrack. I've tracking wounded deer. I've had them go back about 20 yards until they get close to a thick bush, and then they leap sideways, like 20 feet sideways, and then they on the other side of the bush. So, and I mean, I've had to track down these wounded deer and finish them off as a hunting guide. And you're absolutely right. Tracks that stop are, I mean, even like an animal that's, like a white-tailed deer, like something that's not even near as smart as a Sasquatch. If they can do it, a Sasquatch can do it in its sleep, No, I agree with you.
Well, what gets me is they go, well, it's an open field. Give me your proof. Give me your proof that it's an open field, 50 acres. And but how is there one print? There's not like 1 or 2 here, 1 or 2. No, it's one somewhere out in the middle. There's just this one print. It's just an anomaly. It's got nothing to do with Bigfoot. It's got nothing to do with spaceships. It's got nothing to do. I will say though, Dogman has been going through portals, and they're fighting. They're fighting catmen. All right. So we're raining cats and dogs everywhere right now. It's pandemonium. All right.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what a dog woman is or a cat woman is. But right now, this war is real.
But I've had so many people that, they, like, in all honesty, like, and I'm not saying that there isn't people who haven't seen this, but I have never run into those people personally in my investigations with the hunting clientele. I like to talk to the hunters because I can relate to them. And the nice thing about a hunter is they might not be able to tell you what they saw, but they can tell you unequivocally what they did not see.
That's right.
And, they'll say, listen, I don't know what I saw, but it was not a moose, was not a bear. It was not anything I've seen before or since. And I saw it clearly, like some people say, well, do you think maybe they saw it for just a second? I said, no, they saw its nose. They saw its eyes. They said it bared its teeth at them and it stunk. And then it it screeched at him and ran away, you know.
Ken, how many times does somebody walk up to you, kind of looking down, a little over here, a little over here, and just says, have you ever seen this? You know, I mean, literally gives you the slow draw. Have you ever seen this? Or have you ever type of thing? I mean, I get that a lot up here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, surely you have.
People seek you out if they know you're not going to laugh at them. Now, if somebody like everybody, like I get people asking me why I don't have a big map of Alberta with pins in it, you know, where all of these sightings occur. And I told them, I says, because if you know the guys that I know, they're all going to tell everybody down at the bar how they came and told me a funny story, and that pin up at the top of Slave Lake is theirs. You know, they, you know, as soon as you start putting pins in map for everybody to see, there's going to be a bunch of jokers come in and try to get you to put extra pins in your map.
Well, not only that, they're like gold panners. They're not going to tell you your area they hunt.
Yeah,
That's
well,
their area.
They're just going to try and tell you a story, and they're just going to try and, you know, but and I mean, usually because if you're a Sasquatch researcher, you already know what these animals are like, and how, you know, people, when they describe them to you, you can almost tell whether they've seen one or not, because, you know, how it moves, how it reacted, you know, the whole thing. You know, you just get to, and as somebody tells you something that doesn't make sense, well, then they're probably pulling your leg. But I don't get a lot of that in the hunting community. I get very little of it. Now, there's one guy that he's been known to spin a yarn, and he told me a story. He said it was from Nordegg. No, I mean, this guy, you know, and he told me a story, and everything, all the details were really good, including the area, which was up by Nordegg. And so I got the impression later that he didn't actually see it, but it was a story that was related to him by somebody who did see one, because he had too much. Everything was just like right down from the color to the height to the gait. You know, it was described to him, and then he just told me that he saw it. And this guy was known for things like that. That's probably one of the only guys. I think he still was telling me a real story, but I think he was just lying to me about him being the one who witnessed it. But you just don't know, you know. And I don't question people. I listen to what they have to say. If it's something that I can't use, or if I'm worried might not be accurate, I just don't bring it up. You know, the last thing I ever want to do is create any kind of scenario where somebody does not want to come to me with information. Right. I don't want to ever exclude anybody from telling me anything, no matter how crazy it is, because I need to hear it. I need to hear it, and then I need to process it myself. And the last thing I need to do is pass judgment on any of these people.
I've asked in the past, just talk to me about it. Let's just have a conversation.
That's right.
And hell, I've lost, I think, 10 subscribers last week.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I know that I'm kind of considered a hard ass with this, shoot from the hip type of guy, but it's always mattered to me to bring truth, because what happened to me and her, you have to bring truth. What I saw was, if you take a white Caucasian woman's face,
mm-hmm.
and you just put a hoodie on them, and say you've got a bun. All the women in the modern day are wearing a bun right on top of their head. So, So I felt completely safe. I felt like I saw a Caucasian woman's face, a big face, but I needed comfort so bad you wouldn't even. I don't even know how to describe what I needed, the feelings I was having. So to watch her come down, and she was literally watching her steps as she was walking toward me. And I knew she knew I was peeing, and that was bugging the crap out of me. I literally thought that I was watching a human woman.
Yeah.
Just that was heavily, you know how women are. You and I, we'll go out there and it's raining and stuff. We'll just put a sweater on or something, right?
Yeah.
Just go. We're good. We're going to sit and drink beers around the campfire.
Yeah.
Women don't do that shit. They layer up. And that's I just thought I was looking at a layered woman who could have been much more than 6'2", 6'3", but the round face, but it was Caucasian as hell.
Yeah.
And so that
goes a long way to because like even the trapper who's seen quite a few of them says their faces are all different. And basically the first time he got really close, he wondered if he wasn't looking at some hippies that just went back to the wild, is basically how he put it. He said it really made him think, but he thought, why would they grow so big? At one point he said he was on a trail and he said a female walked out on the trail in front of him. And then it had a young one, and the young one was quite small and it was walking on all fours like a monkey. And then he said another mature female walked out, and she had what appeared to be a teenager with a real bad limp. He appeared to have recovered from a bad injury, and it limped quite a bit. And then so there he had two females on the trail in front of him, and two young ones of varying age. And he said their faces are all different, like just like he said, like our faces are different, is how he put it. We're dealing with a hominid.
So I sent you guys, Jay, that video earlier. Don't post it yet. Can you post it first of all?
Yes.
Okay. So Ken, because of your expertise, I found a video today that came in, and I thought I wanted to hear your perceptions on how you might twig what you're about to watch a bit as you watch it. It'll make much more sense after you see the video. Oh. But I thought to myself, imagine seeing this in the forest. So if you guys got it loaded up there, go ahead and play it for him.
We both thought of you about this. So so Ken, your beautiful brilliance.
Yeah.
Here we go.
We want you to show us what you do differently on this on the subject here. But just watch it for entertainment purposes for now.
Okay.
Or you can turn the volume on there if you want.
Is there no volume?
Well, I don't know why it's not playing.
Oh, that's okay. That's pretty wild. Imagine if someone was in that and you saw that in the forest. It's not the same one with the people's legs in it, where you can see the legs.
And you could pull this off.
I'm wondering how they did this thing.
It's a robot.
Yeah.
No, it's not a robot. The person's inside it.
Okay.
There is a person inside of it?
Yep.
Shizzles.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good though, eh?
That's what I figured. It's pretty cool. It's very cool, actually. Well, actually, you wouldn't want to pull that prank on me because I'm usually armed when I'm in the woods. And
But when you're looking at that as a taxidermist, because you're looking at trying to make it as realistic as possible, what do you see here that you might improve on if you were to take a peek at that and somebody asked you to do a job?
Oh man, I'll tell you something. I would love to be there just to be entertained. That's really cool. That's very, very good work. And they said it's in Japan. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, no, it's for a park where all the dinosaurs are like that. Somebody sits inside it, but the mechanisms they must have is just unbelievable inside.
Now, I'll tell you something about this. The first thing that I noticed that you do not see on Patty, and that is I can tell that this creature, this thing that they're working with here, is extremely light. I can tell that it's light because, obviously it has to be, but I can see that it's light. One thing, when I watched the video with Patty, I can see that it's very heavy.
Look at the neck. It's right
there.
Good, nice observation, Ken.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it and it's obvious that they've perfected this thing, but on the other hand, if it weighed as much as a real dinosaur, then I'll be crushed in there. And that's
with children, especially with children in the audience.
Oh God, my grandsons would, I couldn't bring them in there. They're too young. They'd be,
Mason would just
he'd think that was awesome.
Think about making it lay an egg or something. Man, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
big old son of a bitch, an egg big as a Volkswagen, a
Yeah.
bug. Holy cow. This is good stuff though. Leon presented this today, and I thought that's a great thing to present to Ken, because you have to make what you're doing real. You have to make whoever killed that deer, you got to make them so happy that this deer didn't lose its life to hang on their freaking wall for some reason.
Yeah, well, that's right. You got to create the illusion of life. It's just one still static moment in time. But in a lot of cases, like with the work that I do, especially for competitions, I recreate movement in something that's not moving.
Right.
So basically what I have to do is I have to interpret the actual animal's habits, like how that animal would move. And then I have to create the momentum. And then I have to, I have to create the proper balance to show momentum. We've got to weld pieces for brackets for hanging things up and things like that. But that's a whole different realm what these guys did with that Allosaurus. That's pretty cool. That's interactive stuff. I never really got interested in wanting to do any kind of animatronics with the taxidermy. Some people are, but I probably because I commercialized it at such a young age and did it for a living. It would have cost me more money than I would make, and I needed to make money to pay for all my stuff.
Not anymore. Celebration time. Come on.
Yeah,
The celebration.
my buddy who watched me get the phone call and then saw me hang up the phone, he walked in halfway through. He thought somebody in my family had died. White as a ghost. He said he wished he'd had his phone on and recorded what I did when I hung up that phone.
Oh yeah.
He says, I just started screaming and running around my shop, leaping. He said, never seen me leap that high. I didn't think I was so good. And I just kept screaming over and over when I just won $1 million. And there I was. When they told me I thought they were phoning to tell me if I was happy with the bank. And so I said, oh yeah, no, I'm really happy with my
now I'm happy.
and I'm going on and I'm talking to this guy on the phone. I just, I try to be friendly to my bank. But my ex-wife, actually, it was her branch that gave me the money.
Oh shit. Oh my God. Did you give her any, or you're like,
well, she's married again, got a different name. And what I did is I gave her money that I owed her, that I didn't realize I owed her until she blurted it out. So I just gave it to her. But I have 2 kids that are involved. But at the same time, I don't think her, she's got her own life now, and I got mine, and I've got the house, and I got all her credit card debt and everything with the mortgage. This was all good. But
totally.
But like when I was talking to the guy on the phone, I said something funny, and then I heard a whole bunch of people laugh, and I went, "How many people are on this call?" Yeah. And he says, the whole boardroom, really, Ken. And I thought, he laughed. He goes, I am the CEO, and I'm thinking, am I in trouble? Like, are they distracting me while the cops surround my house? I don't know. So anyways, he says, Ken, I love making this phone call. He said, are you aware of our big share contest? And apparently there was 38 seconds of dead air. And once he said that, I knew why they were phoning me. And I can't even describe the feeling. I was stunned, and there was tears running down my face. And I swear to God, I wasn't crying. But all that kind of went through my mind is that you're finally free.
Nice.
And then, so then I got, they finally said, are you still there? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm here. And, then I had to sit on the whole secret for 3 weeks. I had to answer skill testing questions. That saved me $400,000 in taxes. And then, so it was just, the whole thing was surreal. It was surreal. And it's really weird because, you realize the best things in life really are free, because I'm just so lucky my kids loved me before I won money.
Yes, indeed.
They love you even more now, don't they?
Yeah, but those things are all like, you realize that your health and your friends and the quality of your friends and all these things. It tests all that stuff. it really was, but everything went back to normal really quick. I just, my normal before was I was normal with a empty bank account, and then now I'm normal with a not so empty bank account.
It's okay. So Ken, you've had COVID, right? You had to go through COVID.
I had COVID
pretty
pneumonia.
much right about the same time, right? With your lottery.
No, I won the lottery in June, and then I came back from Europe in October. And then I caught COVID on the very last day of October, and the Delta variant, not the new one. The new one's great. It just gives you T cells. That's all. But I went to the hospital. They refused to treat me. It wasn't until an ambulance took me away that they would treat me. Like, they don't treat this disease. It's almost like they wait to see if you're going to live or something. They don't treat it early enough. They really don't. I was kind of shocked when I first went down there and they tested me. They phoned me the next day and said COVID, and then they told me all the things I can't do. Nobody said,
"Oh,
let me get worse." But they gave me antibody treatments, which are not allowed to give Canadians unless they're in my situation.
Yeah.
And everybody gets the antibody treatments, they'd be fine. So what ended up happening is now all these people have this new one all around me. Everybody, mostly vaccinated people, are getting it, and
I got
it right now. I have it right now.
Both got it. Yeah. Vaccinated. We both got it.
Yeah, well, the natural immunity has been proven to be 14 times as effective. As a matter of fact, the CDC has 0 cases of anybody with natural immunity having ever spread COVID. 0 cases. And I tried to share that article on Facebook, and they kept telling me that it was misleading, and they wouldn't let me share it. So finally, I went back in and I said, "Why is this misleading?" And what the article said was, just because the CDC has 0 cases of anybody with natural immunity having ever spread COVID doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
Yeah, we can't share truth. As funny as that. I noticed that I have a friend that wants to go to another country and do some Bigfoot work, and all they did was say, "I'd like to go here and all this. I want to go here with this person, that person." And they went, "COVID restrictions." And then, "If you don't believe this," I'm just like, could you get the hell out of the way so I could read what my friend has just put up there? I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I've known for quite a few years, just from reading and retaining what I've read, that they can't really vaccinate against a virus because the virus keeps changing. That's why they have a flu shot every year, not just one and you're done. So when they started the vaccine, I was planning to go down and get it. But I thought to myself, it doesn't really make sense, because how are they all of a sudden able to tackle this virus, but none of the ones in the past? And it wasn't until my neighbor got blood clots all through his liver and died right after getting the injection that I decided not to get it. And my family is prone to blood clots. We don't get heart disease, we don't get cancers, but we get blood clots. If anybody in the family,
we lost 2 people. We lost 2 people very close to us.
Yeah.
Somebody down at work, and then our sister-in-law's husband.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And that was a heavy smoker, late 50s, had some other things going wrong in the lives, but at work it really hit home. Dan, there was nothing wrong with him. There was nothing wrong with him. He got COVID and died in 21 days.
Yeah.
And that shook the shit out of all of us. And and then so I got really nervous because I got it. I'm diabetic.
Yeah.
I smoked for 43 years before I finally quit.
Yeah.
And I was scared to death. But I got the Omicron and all that. I don't want to turn this into a COVID.
No. But I mean, I just saw quite a few vaccine injuries, and of course, the people who got COVID as well. My son is the actual peace officer. We call it a peace officer in the U of A hospital here in Edmonton, and he takes anybody who dies. He takes them down to the morgue. And so, of course, when the pandemic started, he would read the charts, and he called me up and says, "Dad," he said, "as long as you're not overweight," he says, "and as long as you're healthy," he says, just watch your health, just keep on track of it." He said, "Really," he said, "literally, very few people actually die of just COVID." He said, "Mostly people who already have complicating factors." But what he told me now, he said that the more people dying right now of just everything, then he said that doesn't even come close. He said that when the pandemic started, he said a fraction of people are dying then compared to now. He said the morgues are overflowing, they're full. He said he's never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Just
And
people
on a counterbalance to this, I've
Yeah.
dropped dead 5 times because of a rare blood clotting disorder.
Okay.
So,
Have you had the experience? Have you had the whole experience?
Oh yeah, I got all my vaccinations. I have COVID right now. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm on
You're
lockdown.
tested 3 times now, Leon.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I can drop dead at one in 3 chance of dropping dead at any time. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's quite a few variables, but I don't want to get again. One thing that drives me nuts is I've been dealing with the Bigfoot community for 5 years online, which is crazy. And some of the crazy thinking that's in society is so immersed in us that it's fatigued everyone's thinking. I would rather just come on and talk about Ken and what you're doing. Your
Right.
Sasquatch stuff. That's all I'm saying. Not saying we're not being political, guys. I know we're not. Because
No. But yeah, like, I mean, I had COVID though. I did have it, and I got better, and I was never scared. Even in the ambulance, I was never ever scared. But I
wasn't either. It was kicking my ass, and it gave me a something I don't do. It gave me depression. I guess it's because of the people I do love and know that died from it. So I went into this deep depression. I had a hard time getting myself out of that.
Yeah, that can be bad. Yeah, that can.
But
be
I'm
bad.
good now. I'm good. It's just
I had a same thing. I dropped dead when I was 27 years old. I died of I guess cyanotic shock is what happened, and I had a near-death experience. It was pretty amazing. Like everybody was crying, they thought I died, but what I went through, like I did that whole thing where I turned into light, and I went to this place and tried to get in, and they told me not to go there, and I've had that whole experience, and I find it impossible to be afraid of almost anything now. Nothing really scares me anymore. I came out of that, so I've had that experience. So when you said you dropped dead, that's why I asked you if you had the experience. I've talked.
Well, I'm clinically. I mean, I could dissect what happened to you clinically if you wanted to, but I don't want to do that. But yeah, I've dropped dead 5 times. But there's you carry a pharmaceutical company in your brain with lots of chemicals that automatically kick in before you pass on. So it's very euphoric a lot of times. So an interesting question. I might as well throw this one in here. It's kind of funny around the world, depending on what tradition of religion you believe, and that's who you end up seeing when you're having a near-death experience. Not in all cases, but
that's funny because all of the people that I talked to who had this, basically what they didn't see deities. They saw people that had already died.
Well, no, it just depends on how they do it. I mean, clinically, in the lab, we can make you have that same experience. We could just reproduce it for you. But
I think the weirdest part is seeing somebody that you didn't know died, and then you find out afterwards that they really did die. Yeah. No, the experience was quite interesting for me, and as to whether people believe it was real or not, I pretty much know if it was real or not. Just like the other people I've talked to about it too, and it puts you in a different place. But
you become like when I dropped dead on this is new. Remember 2000, the end of the world, right? The apocalypse.
I was.
Yeah, and when where was I going with this whole thing? Okay, we were talking about near-death experiences. We're talking about total blank in my head. Sorry. Let's talk about cheesies or something.
So Ken,
the ones I want to be eating when I'm I know.
No idea what it'll come back to me. But
Ken, what is the most challenging thing that you have taxidermies? What I want to know is, you've been to other countries, you've been in other.
And his line is breaking up a little bit there.
Sorry about that.
The most
So when you
challenging
work-
thing is either something that is extremely small or something that is extremely big. Like I did some walruses; those were
Yeah.
challenging just because they were so big, and I had to carve them from styrofoam because there's no forms. But also for the Smithsonian, I was doing like shrews that are only the size of your half your finger, your little finger. You know, that's I guess would be the most challenging thing. Otherwise, the thing that becomes a challenge is the condition of the specimen that you're working
Right.
with. I did black-footed ferrets for the Smithsonian that were necropsied, and so I would have to take 3 and make 1. I couldn't understand why they would destroy something in a necropsy that was critically endangered. They have such value to be put on display afterwards, but you'd be surprised, you know.
I've asked myself that many times.
Yeah.
But okay, so here I go with this one. The Smithsonian.
Mhm.
You didn't find a lot while you were there, right? What I'm asking is, were you challenged while you were there? And do you wish now they have a lot of things that we don't even know about?
That is exactly the truth. There's some. I started my Sasquatch quest a few months after leaving the Smithsonian, not before. Otherwise, I would have probably had some pretty good talks because I went through the anthropology areas quite a few times, and they have a massive amounts of specimens in drawers put away, and they have warehouses of stuff. And I have been able to do a little bit of digging, and yeah, the giant skeletons have disappeared.
They're gone, right?
Well, they're not. I don't think they're gone, but they're.
Well, I mean, you can't go. Can I? Yeah, I got to pass down to the 3rd floor.
The files are gone. Everything's no. They've been scrubbed. You know, but I wish that I would have been. God, I wished I would have been onto this thing while I was there. And also too, like the working at the Smithsonian, that city is very political. It's really political. There's a lot of division there. You really got to do your research before you even talk to somebody, find out whether they hate you or not. You know, for no reason. You know, there was times I loved Washington D.C. and there was times I hated it. There was times I would tell people if they ever gave the country an enema, that's where they'd stick the hose, you know. And there was other times where I thought it was, you know, I mean, no, in all seriousness, like,
and you're going to start a war with the Americans, man.
No,
pull her back.
My family, if you want to know the truth, but the thing is, like, no, it was just like all of the division you see everywhere now was started there, you know. Like there was a lot of, it was right after 9/11 when I was there, and you know, there was all kinds of lockdowns and Black Hawk helicopters flying everywhere, and of course there's, you know, people saying this and people saying that, and then if you had like my boss had a sticker on his truck that said "Sportsman for Bush," and they wouldn't let him park in the parking lot because they didn't like Bush, you know, just that kind of stuff. So you had to learn to maneuver your way around it. So I really wish that I would have been on this quest while I was there, because if I would have been of a very rare political opinion, and the guy in anthropology was too, he'd have told me anything. But I don't know. It was just, that's how it was there. It was very interesting, and I'm very grateful that they brought me down there to do what they did. But some of the stuff I had to deal with was really tough. I was really glad to get home. There's too many people there for me. You know,
Yeah.
and they weren't friendly. I went to Redding, California to judge the taxidermy show, and that was the friendliest place I've ever been to. I didn't want to leave, you know. I love Redding, California. I love California. Like I, you know, I've got so many friends there, and you know, people like to say things about California, but they don't say them about the places I go and the friends that I have there. You know, it's you get into LA, that's pretty crazy, but you know, I don't like all the divisions and stuff like that. So, and I got a real early taste of it working at the Smithsonian, but I'm very grateful for being able to do, you know, what I got to do there and see what I got to see and learn what I got to learn.
I think that's awesome,
Yeah.
Ken. I honestly, that would be a dream for me, just to walk in those doors.
You know, it's a really like the buildings are historical, are so old. You know, when you go into the people's offices and see the things they have, and they had somebody got a black bear skull, shot a black bear in Alaska, the size of a biggest Alaskan brown bear. I think the skull scored 30 inches.
Jeez.
And most people do. Well, that's I think the world record's 23 inches. So this thing isn't supposed to even exist. And I've talked to people about it, and they said, no, I heard about that story and it's all BS. That's what they used to tell me, except for the part where I sat there in the guy's office with the skull in my hands looking at it. And you know what the craziest thing about that skull was? It wasn't a grizzly. It was a black bear, but it wasn't an old one. Its teeth weren't all decayed. It had young, strong, healthy teeth. No one ever got a straight answer on what they found about that. I don't know what it was.
What do you think causes that, though, Ken? I mean, I saw what was it? Years ago, we saw a lynx as big as a Doberman Pinscher, literally as big as a Doberman Pinscher. That's what we thought it was out in the forest. And then it turned its head and it had that big cat face. So I immediately contacted, the game commission. They're like, oh, well, they get as big as, if they got a good food supply, they get as big as they want to get.
Yeah.
I was like, what kind of a fucking answer is that? Oh, they get as big as they can get. I was like,
eat a lot, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the lynx now the lynx from Russia are that big. Now, was it more silver or was it more orangey?
It was black.
Black. And you said it was a lynx?
Yep. Well, okay. We're coming down. We're way up high in the mountains here. That was Skamania County. Way high up that side of Mount St. Helens.
Okay.
We're coming down. We're probably 3,000 feet. And here's this big black thing about 100 yards in front of us. And this is like 92, 93.
That's interesting.
Standing there, look, and little tail. So like 30 miles down below, but as I was taking her and the kids up, there was a guy with two Dobermans. Yeah. So I thought, oh, here's a Doberman. But then it turned his face like this to the truck. It was a big old, it was a cat.
Oh, yeah, crazy. Because Canadian lynx are silver, and the Russian lynx that are in the fur farms, and sometimes they get away, they're more that size, but they're more of an orangey color.
This is black.
But you know, there's been people seeing big black cats everywhere for a long time, like in a lot of places. So.
No,
I don't want to interject too much, but I have to.
That black cat bullshit that they over here.
I've heard that. That's where I've heard the story about a lynx being black.
I'm just telling you that it was on Mount St. Helens, and I did call the game commission. They said it's probably a lynx, and it's probably been fed very well. Okay. That's all they told me.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of cats, I have a cougar on my property, and I have to go check the horses here. So just giving you a heads up on that.
I thought you said her name was Donna.
It's Donna the cougar.
Just up the road from here, just up the little next town where my kids go to school, my son and I each shot a big mountain lion there, and we got 4 of them. You know, we ran them with the dogs, but yeah, we got them around here too. They're like ghosts. You just you see their tracks, but you never see them unless you put a dog on them, you know?
Yeah, we've got a lot coming right down to the residential areas right now. So yeah, I'm on an acreage, so I got to just.
We got grizzlies coming in now. Grizzlies everywhere. Grizzlies. You never seen so many grizzly bears. It makes it lots of fun when you're hunting black bears in the spring, because those things are aggressive, you know, and they're protected. So.
I've seen online where a grizzly bear is like digging out a black bear den with like 100-pound babies in there, like, and they're just like it's nothing, and it's like, oh my god,
that's right up the road here at Whitecourt. That's just up the highway from where I am right now.
Hilarious.
That's where it was. There's I see when I go to grizzly bear or black bear hunting in the spring, I see as many grizzlies now as I see white black bears. They're
Jesus.
everywhere. Yeah, you know, and I mean, you used to phone your neighbor if you found a grizzly track back in the day, but boy, there's lots of them now. Yeah, and they're eating all the black bears too. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That showed them. All these babies were able to escape. You know, the 100-pound babies,
Yeah, he
and
caught
the mother,
that,
you know, and then all of a sudden, here's a claw, brings one, and now it's just like Jesus Christ. And these guys are like 10 feet off the road filming this. I'm like,
They were filming out their truck window, so they didn't. That's what they were
so
doing.
you know what I'm talking about then?
Yeah, absolutely. I see. Well, yeah, that's where I hunt. Actually, that happened where I hunt up at Whitecourt here.
Jesus,
Yeah. You know where that is,
shit, man.
Yeah,
I've been there many a time. There's a
One-
UFO sighting up there as well.
One predator saying,
A UFO landing, actually, that
"I'm
happened.
going to kill another predator."
I found an
Jeez.
area with Sasquatch up there by Little Smoky. If you ever come into the province, we'll go up there. I'll show you some stuff. Yeah, on the Goose River.
Yeah, I'm
there.
familiar. Are you familiar with the trail that goes from up through Whitecourt and stuff, and you come across the log with the dead guy inside it?
Well, there's the highway that goes to Swan Hills. That's very close to where I had my sighting.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I used to do forestry up in Whitehorse too,
Oh,
or
okay.
Whitecourt.
Whitecourt, yeah. Yeah,
Part
they
of the
walked
purpose- like I said, part of the purpose of our show with conversation is connecting people with each other.
Oh, absolutely. This is cool.
And
I'm
that's
enjoying
why I invited Leon, especially. Leon is the guy that took a lot of time to make me a better man. And
Fixed him right up.
It's because I keep talking. I'm a talker usually. I'm hardly talking at all tonight because of COVID.
no, he has. Leon is one of those guys. If it wasn't for his guidance, I don't know where I'd be right now, to be honest with you.
Well, I did want to talk to you, Ken, but I got to get going. But I did want to talk to you about the big turd you have in your freezer.
Oh, yeah, I gave it all. Tyler Huggins has got it now in there. It's all the rest of it's being analyzed now.
Good.
But I would love to come out to the Okanagan and visit you guys out there. Really would.
Well, it's Canada's hotspot, right? So.
I'm allowed to go there.
Well, it depends this summer if we keep getting, heat wave, floods, fires, smoke. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know it's been bad.
50 degrees Celsius here. Oh, it was just brutal, man.
Yeah, China was like that.
Before we lose Leon, I want you guys to know that I've been putting together a children's show. And the only problem no, that's true. The only problem I have is I'm having problems finding people with kids that want to ask questions. I have already got Kathy Strain lined up, Amy Boo lined up for this children's show. It's going to happen in March. Mm-hmm. But if I can't get some people, I'd like to have Ken, if you wouldn't mind, to answer questions from kids.
Yeah.
I think this is important to get, children. I can't find anybody the children. So if the chat can help us to get some children involved in this, I think it's a very educational thing.
I would go on Bigfoot Believers Facebook page and post that you're going to be doing this.
Well, I've already got Kathy. I've already got Amy Boo.
Yeah.
And I wanted to I wanted to get Ken, because he's also a knower and an educator. We can all see that tonight. Leon, I wanted you too, because you're a teacher, and what we need now is children.
That's what I mean. Go to
Bigfoot. If you're a parent that says, "I'll sit there with my child and listen to these people," now we've got it tentative for March. We're throwing it out into March. Kathy says yes. Amy Boo says yes. So if I get Ken a yes, that would be great, because this is for educating the children.
Yeah. No, I got no problem with it. I've raised kids. I'm from a big family. I got a couple grandsons, so I'm used to dealing with them. I also got a really good Okanagan Sasquatch story from a guy in town here. I got to tell you one of these days.
Well, we're going to listen to it right now.
Oh, you want to hear it now? Well,
Yes, hell I do.
Got to get going pretty quick, but go for it.
Okay. Well, this guy, his girlfriend or his wife, they knew who I was, and so I was in the pub there, and she made him come and talk to me, and so he kind of got talking, and him and this guy were looking for an area up there, like if you know the kind of people in Alberta Beach, but they were looking for a spot back in the hills there in the Okanagan where they could grow some of their weed. And they found this segregated place. They said it was perfect, but they said they were so uneasy in there. And so anyways, they went walking and they got back into this place in this clearing, and they looked down and there was a big Sasquatch track. And they looked at it and they said, "What kind of track is that?" And the guy said, and they were so scared. He said that, like, they had that fear thing. And so they went running back to their motorbikes because they took in dirt bikes there. Well, something had picked up one of the dirt bikes and shoved it into the other dirt bike. And as soon as they got in there and saw that these things had been meshed together, this thing roared at them. Wow. He says they were just about crapping their pants trying to pull these two bikes apart, trying to get out of there. He said, and this guy's eyes kept getting bigger and bigger as he's telling me this story. And you could see he was experiencing it again. And he said that we found a casted track in one of the stores. The guy said it was a Sasquatch, exactly what we saw. And he said, but anyways, it was in the Okanagan, and these guys looking for a place to grow their weed. He said you couldn't pay me $1 million to go back up that trail. He said
every hunter that I deal with that's went into their areas, and they're like generational hunters. So it's not like they're not familiar with the area. None of them go back.
Yeah.
They're too afraid to go back. Too afraid.
Yeah. So anyways, there it is. That's my Okanagan story for today.
Find the location for me.
Yeah.
But I am so happy about tonight's show. I want to thank you so much, Ken.
Oh, it's my pleasure, you guys. It was my pleasure.
I hope you would come back and visit us again.
Would love to.
I would love to have you again, especially for the educational show. Leon is he's just my brother. That's just
stop it, you.
That's
You're making me blush.
He's done so much for me. Nobody will ever know what he's done for me.
Yeah,
no,
don't do something really crazy because they're all gonna go back. Leon did that.
No, I love you so much, Leon. So thank you, Ken. I hope you, if you're on board for let's do this kids show.
Yeah, if I can help you out.
And if the people in the chat, hey, look, if you got some grandkids or you got some kids, you got anybody who's curious, let's do some curious kids. You know what I would think? If Curious Cryptid had some kids, they'd be curious kids, right?
Yep.
Wouldn't that be right?
Goes with the name.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tonight. I'm so grateful for the chat and the people and all of you so much. Thank you. And we'll say good night.
Okay, guys.
Night.
Good night. Take care.
Thanks. Nobody loves you. Hell, nobody even likes you. It is because you are of a lower class. If this is you in your picture, okay, you do look a little bit tough. But I know an old boy from Yakov makes you look like a powder puff. We can fight tonight at my house if you think you're man enough. But $100 says you don't show up.